Hey, what's going on, everybody? David Noy with Speakeasy HR, presented by Payroll Partners. It is February 10th, coming off a Super Bowl weekend. And I'm sure, just like everybody else, you're trying to stay healthy at this time of year. And right now, I am. And I have an awesome guest with me today, Chris McClure. Welcome, Chris. How are you today?
Hey, doing well. Staying healthy here. We were just talking, just trying to stay away from all the sick people
Yeah, it's
going
it's that
around.
time. It's that time of year, It's
Yeah.
like everybody's getting out a little bit more as the weather's breaking a little bit, but we're both in a somewhat similar region, right? We're
Yeah.
in Cincinnati, Ohio, Kentucky, and weather's gone up and down, and just people are getting sick a lot, and
Yeah.
so
I'm ready for spring. That's all I'll say.
having kids and getting sick, and yeah, definitely ready for the spring. So for those who have not watched this before, my name is David Noe. I am the one-man show here for Speakeasy HR. We have been doing this since last July, and it's been a heck of a lot of fun meeting, talking to people. If you want to go out and see more work of mine, it's speakeasyhr.com. Brand new blog went out today. Word of the week was empathy. Great word to think about as you go into this springtime. And just if you're a manager, which we're going to get into a little bit about management, but empathy to me is a huge piece of the workplace in really any job, but specifically management leadership. So make sure to go out there, work, or I'm sorry, yeah, week, what is it, week 7. Yeah, I was clicking the wrong button there. So empathy is the recent one that I put out there. So Chris, we're going to get into this a little bit, but obviously I want to hear more about your background. We've talked a little bit. You're doing a lot of different things. You went from being a pastor, you're working at a chamber of commerce, you're doing this coaching, you're an author. So let's dive into that and hear a little bit more about your background. So I don't know where you want to start, but I'll let you have the floor here, my friend.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And thanks again for having me. I tell people, I never ever dreamed of doing what I'm doing today. Never, this wasn't the plan, right? It wasn't where I could envision myself landing, especially 30 years ago when I was, heading to a high school graduation and thinking about my future. It's like I was all set. I went to Christian college to go to become a youth pastor. That was the path I was confident I needed to be on. And I did that for about 15 years and enjoyed it. It was great. And yet I had this hunger for leadership development all along the way from basically the time I graduated high school. Especially as I went through college, I had mentors speaking to my life and really challenging me to grow as a leader. And I didn't really know why at the time they were saying that as much, but I valued them and trusted them
Yeah.
enough to say, okay, I'm going to dive into this. As you can see behind me, I have a ton of books. That's not even a portion, really of what I have or have read. But I hated reading as a kid. My parents think it's hysterical that I am an author now because I hated reading. I've written 2 books now, and today we're going to talk about one of those. But it's one of those things where I think it's just been a journey. As I was doing my work in local churches to serve as youth pastor and then ultimately an associate and executive pastor roles, my leadership capabilities grew, but also my opportunities grew. And then just had a heart for people, in the workplace. As I
Yeah.
talked to people even in our churches, they were talking about the struggles they had with management or what they were struggling with as managers. And so I really just kept trying to have those conversations, invest in them, and just grow personally so I could help them. So ultimately led to me starting my business, becoming a coach, and then ultimately writing my books. And it's like it's been funny because it's almost 10 years ago when I started my business and started down this path. And I'm excited now because I feel like a 10-year season is wrapping up and a new
Yeah.
10-year season is coming. And I'm just very open to what that looks like.
Yeah. Yeah, no, that's awesome. Congrats on almost 10 years of coaching and consulting. And I think that's just a testament to what you're doing in your market and getting to know people and the Chamber of Commerce. You've been doing that for about 5 years. You've been the vice
Three,
president.
three and a half now. Yeah.
Three and a
Uh-huh.
half. Okay. And you've been the vice president for 2 years roughly. So
Yeah, I
that's
started as like the operations manager, and then we've morphed that into more of an expanded role. And yeah, I get to do a lot of the marketing, business support for the organization as well as our members, and that's been
yeah.
awesome because what I didn't anticipate with that was just the opportunity to really engage with our members the way I have and really help our community.
Yeah. I had a comment come through. I don't know if you saw it from Ryan.
I did. Yeah. Yeah. Ryan, I love watching him on LinkedIn as well.
Yeah. So thanks for chiming in, Ryan, and anybody else out there, chime in about the Super Bowl commercials, where you're watching, throw, a question at Chris as we go through about this topic that we'll get into. So certainly appreciate the engagement, and thanks for the comment, Ryan. That's great that you're following along here. So, so just working with the chamber, it's kind of where you and I met, actually.
Right.
Got to know the chamber a little bit in there in Beaver Creek area, and just as we work with payroll partners and some of the chambers in Ohio, it's been great to meet people like yourself. And now we're here today talking on the podcast. So
yeah, I remember when we first met, like this was just like the beginning of an idea to get this thing going, I think, or you just started one of the two.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I saw your podcast studio and we started talking about that, and you're like, well, yeah, let's keep talking. So here we are. So yeah, thanks for sharing your background. I think that's great. I think everything's kind of led up to what you're doing. And the next 10 years will be different than your first 10. And I'm sure it'll bring some excitement and some growth and everything with the technology out there. It's just crazy. So let's dive into this fun game I call the world famous envelope icebreaker game.
All right.
So let me pull this up. So I've got 15 envelopes. Every envelope has a number. If you have watched before, I let the guest pick a number 1 through 15, and we'll see what he or she comes up with. So, Chris, number 1 through 15, what do you got?
I'm going to go with number 11.
Number 11. All right. Number 11 it is. And question is, if money and time were no object, what would you be doing right now?
The funny thing is, it's what I'm doing. I mean, really, it's, I've thought about that over the years. Like, what do I love to do? And it's, as much as I love to obviously get paid to coach and speak and train, it's a huge blessing in that regard. It's also what I just can't help myself, right? Like, I find myself in conversations all the time that are not paid gigs, that are just,
right.
So I guess I'm really blessed and fortunate to be able to do right now what I would dream of doing.
Yeah. No, that's awesome. That's exactly what a lot of people want. And if they don't have it right now, I challenge everybody to find what that is. So, All right. One more, Chris. What do you got? 1 through 15 minus 11.
I will go through, go to 6.
Number 6. Yeah. I don't know if number 6 has been picked. I don't really change them around much. I mean, I could, but
this is in honor of my oldest son. That's his number.
Number 6. All right. What is the top place to go on your bucket list?
Ooh.
Where you want to go on your bucket list?
Australia.
Okay.
Ever since I watched Crocodile Dundee as a kid, I've always wanted to be in Australia.
That's so funny because when you said Australia, I was thinking Dumb and Dumber, and you picked Crocodile Dundee. So
another shrimp on the Barbie.
We were thinking of a movie, but not the same movie. No, there's definitely places, Greece, and I've just never been even over the pond. Like for golf, I want to go to Scotland and the old courses of the world and where the game of golf started. Just having kids playing golf. I'd love to get out there, or they just keep talking about, let's go here, Dad, let's go play golf here. And I'm like, yeah, that's one day we'll do it.
They don't understand the time and money that takes to do those trips, right?
Yeah. You just can't fly overseas and do that for a long weekend, but
right.
You gotta have time. You gotta have time to enjoy it and travel. So, let me bring up one thing. So again, Speakeasy HR is presented by Payroll Partners. I'm going to bring up a quick rundown of what that is and who we are, and then we'll get in your.
Did you know that 1 out of 3 employers make payroll errors each year? And that 37% of those mistakes are from manual data entry? This means billions of dollars are lost each year. At Payroll Partners, we eliminate those costly mistakes with award-winning HCM technology that's easy to use. Backed by a team of experts, we make payroll seamless and stress-free. We put people behind your payroll.
Oh, didn't want to play it twice. So yeah, if you are looking at new technology for your company, we are one to consider. We've got clients that are 2 employees and 2,000 and all in between, and customize payroll HR technology. I've been doing payroll HR for longer than I want to say, but it's been obviously evolving with technology. But one thing is for sure, you want to have good people. You want to have a contact and resource to contact if you have problems, because when you have a payroll emergency, it's impacting your team. And the last thing you want to do is pay your people wrong, and they will not trust you to pay you to pay them correctly moving forward. So definitely think of us when you are looking at switching payroll companies, because we have a lot of great opportunities for businesses to customize technology. So, all right. So, Chris, you've written a book about this. I think it's a very fitting topic, as middle management, I think, has the hardest job in an organization, and the owner makes high-level decisions, the COO, the controller, financially, the marketing, support teams. You got to support the clients. Just like for us, we've got clients that we want to support and take care of their problems and fix things. But then you have managers that are trying to lead a team. They're trying to encourage one another on their team to really take on the role that they're in and do what they can to build them up, help them improve. So with the magnetic leader, writing a book about this, was this, something that really one day just came to you? Like, what inspired you to get into this kind of writing?
Yeah, I think a lot of it was, just a lot of years of observation of the things that did and didn't work, but also just the things I tried on my own, and kind of the same thing, just experimenting. And John Maxwell and his 21 irrefutable laws of leadership talks about the law of magnetism, that who you are is who you attract. And that's really where the whole magnetic leader, I guess, concept really, I think was really sticky in my mind. And I started really thinking about, well, what makes somebody magnetic? What makes somebody, be able to attract the kind of people they want on their team, and not just attract them, but also retain them? Because David, as you know, retaining people is so important, but it's such a challenge in today's marketplace. And, I feel like a lot of leaders, and I hear a lot of leaders saying, they're either unhappy with the team they have, or they don't have enough of the right people that they need to grow. Or they just, the opportunities are out there, and people, even good people that they love on their team, they just lose them because opportunities abound. Right. And so I think there's just a lot to it. And, to me, it was about the character of the leader. I mean, that's really what this book is about. It's about actions that you take, but if you don't have a certain level of character, you're not going to take these actions. And that's really, I think, the heart of it is, once again, who you are is who you attract. And that idea of that, if you don't like the team or you don't like the situation in your organization, the first place to look is in the mirror, and then becoming this kind of person to attract and retain those kind of people that you want is huge.
Yeah. So you outline 18 essential actions of great leaders in this. Can you share a few that stand out to you the most?
Yeah, there's no sequential order, so it's not 1 through 18 in like a value order. But I always say that number 9 is the one that I feel like is kind of the heart of it, and maybe that's why it's in the middle. I didn't intend it that way, but it is there.
Okay.
It's about loving people,
Yeah.
and it's about genuinely caring for people. Because if you don't care about your people, you're not going to do these things that I talk about all around that one, essential action, as I call it. So,
Right.
it's really about.
Hey, it's Libby DeLucian. If you're sick of business advice that sounds cute but doesn't actually move the needle forward, this one's for you. The Libby DeLucian podcast is where we go one layer deep. No gurus, no glitter, just straight up unfiltered talk about scaling a business, running a household, and holding on to your sanity in the middle of the chaos. If you're the bottleneck in your business or in your own life, I'll show you how to fix it. Simple, tactical, and one layer deep every time. Let's go visit libbyd.com and check out our podcast today.
Being the kind of leader that people love to follow by being, the kind of person that truly genuinely cares for your people. And I think that's just something that when you talk to people, they may not have a perfect leader. No, there is no leader that's perfect, right?
Right.
But they'll say, but I know he or she cares about me or cares about our team and wants us to be successful. And, I've been a big sports fan, grew up in Kentucky, not far from where you are right now, and watched, Kentucky basketball for all my life. And, just being in the sports, space and watching that, the thing I always hear athletes say is, my coach might be hard on me, but I know he cares for me.
Yeah.
And whether that's on the you have the Pat Summits of the world in the women's basketball, that's a legend. You have now the Dawn Staleys, you have, the Rick Pitino's and all the legendary coaches that are out there, John Wooden going back, many, many years now. But that's the kind of thing that so many successful coaches in sports, that's what a lot of their athletes will say is, they're tough to play for.
Right.
I know that they're pushing me to be my best. I know they care for me and my best interest. And I think the same is true in business. I think that it's so hard to find, great talent that you need for your team, especially if you're not real clear on what the role is that you really need. I think a lot of things are very vague in job descriptions or positions a lot of times. And so that's a big step, I think, to help in this. But I think it really starts with, do I care for the people I'm leading to do the things I need to do in order to attract them? Because here's the thing, David, if you can become this kind of leader, you don't have to recruit that hard. In essence, your people start to recruit for you.
Right.
They're talking to their friends or their colleagues, and they'll say, hey, you ought to come to our team because, my leader, our team is really, working together. We're really helping each other out, be successful. And I think a lot of people want that. They want to feel valued. Right. And I think that's why I say that's the heart of it, because if you do that, you start caring for people, then you start listening to them, you start taking action based on what you're hearing and what you're seeing. That's really the essence of the magnetic leader.
Yeah. Yeah. And there's times where people get promoted to be a manager, and it's because of how they performed in their job and their tasks and their projects. Mm-hmm. But if they're a new leader, it doesn't happen overnight. Some people aren't good leaders, even though they're good people and they're good employees.
Yeah.
So it's like, there's a combination of that. And then I tell managers in my role now, like when they're going to be recruiting for positions to fill, it's like, yes, we're looking for people with background in this field and in having experience, but we really, in the interview process, just like you said, if you interview the right way and you have the right mindset of setting the expectations, showing that person that, yeah, I'm going to push you just like I do on my team. I push the people on my team to do better. Mm-hmm. I challenge them. Because again, if you're able to do that in a healthy environment and motivate them, they're going to want to work for you, and they're going to be feeling like they're a part of the team, and it's just going to be a good environment to be in as a leader. But it just, again, it's hard to just say, snap my fingers, I'm going to do that. So, what are some of the common mistakes that leaders make that push away people rather than draw them in?
I think a lot of it, David, comes down to people being so busy that they just get kind of lackadaisical. I don't think that most leaders, at least that I run into and I talk to, don't care about their people. I think they do. It's really, I'm so busy that I just kind of forget about some of these things that help my people be successful, because my to-do list is overwhelming me and we're so busy. We've got projects, we have deadlines, all these things. Right. And so it becomes this challenge of, when do I have the time? And that's really the thing I'm up against, even as a leadership coach, a lot of times working with organizations, is they know they need help. They know they want to even be proactive potentially to get ahead of things, but it's typically not about money. It's about when, it's the time, right? It's when can we squeeze this in? When can we invest in our people? When can we get together as a team? I mean, sometimes, I was talking to a leader the other day. She's like, she's actually going to be stepping into a new role. And she said, I'd really like to kind of start off well with my team. But so we're going to need to look kind of later in the year because she's starting more this summer in her new role.
Yeah.
And so she's thinking proactively, but it's also, it's so far down the road. We don't know what it's going to look like when she starts in June or whenever to the fall. And it's just easy for this, development and investment in your people to get squeezed out. And so I think it's not a malicious thing. I think it's just, we are so busy today in our lives and in the marketplace that we often, it's that tyranny of the urgent, we let the urgent overcome the important. And I think that's really the biggest challenge for a lot of people, because it does take time. I tell people all the time, it takes an upfront investment of time, energy, resources, but there's this huge back end benefit. But the problem is most leaders end up being reactive versus proactive. And so, I'll talk to leaders, talk to organizations, and they'll say, you know what, we just don't have a problem right now. Well, that's good that you don't have a problem right now, but someday you're going to have a problem. And are you going to be ready to address that problem becomes the question.
Right.
And I get frustrated for organizations and for teams and leaders that way, because it's not just about me building my business. It's also about me knowing that if I'm not being proactive as a leader, I'm not going to be ready when the issues arise.
Right. I got Chris McClure on today talking about the magnetic leader in his book with 18 essential actions. And for Chris to, dive into this question, because this is one that I think is super important, and how you develop, these kinds of traits. So how can leaders develop authenticity and trust? Two key traits of a magnetic leader.
Yeah, I think once again, it goes back to who you are. Are you authentic and are you trustworthy?
Yeah.
I briefly, after when I was kind of in the middle of my career transition into my business, I worked at a hotel and working at a front desk and working with the staff there. And I had a manager who wanted me to lie to one of the customers because of something going wrong in their room. And thankfully I was, mature and, probably my early 40s at the time or around there. And I wasn't a 20 something that could, maybe be pushed around the way maybe I would have back in the day.
Yeah.
I told him, I was like, look, if you want me to lie to these people, then you can just have my badge back right now. I'm not lying to these people, right? Like, we just need to be honest with them and tell them that we messed up and just own it. And what's funny is he didn't like it at the moment. But probably about 2 weeks later, he was leaving one day and he said, I didn't like it that day you challenged me. He's like, but you really made me think about, am I being the same person personally and professionally? He said, because I really pride myself in being authentic and trustworthy and honest, as a person. But he's like, you really kind of called me out that day. And I wasn't trying to be rude or anything, obviously, but I was like, I had a line in the sand for me. Right. I was like, I'm not going to lie to these people because we've not done something on our end.
Right.
But it was really eye-opening because it made me think that, this wasn't a bad guy, but the situation and the pressure that he felt as the manager in that moment, revealed a gap or a crack in his character that thankfully he recognized, through reflection and everything. So,
yeah.
It's just one of those things where I think that it's really working on yourself. I mean, one of the things why I have all these books behind me, why I do courses and why I have my own coaches that I've worked with over the years is, I know that if I'm not getting better all the time, I'm not going to have as much to give to those I help. And, and it's really one of those things that we have to really just put ourselves out there, and none of us, once again, I think giving grace to people because none of us are perfect is definitely needed.
Yeah.
At the same time, I think it's looking in the mirror and being honest with ourselves and saying, where am I lacking and how do I develop that imperfection to become, better and more consistent in my character.
Right.
Because I also think, David, that if people see you doing that, even though you might be messing up, but they see that you're trying, it makes a big difference in those you're leading.
Yep. Yeah. Thanks, Pam. That's That's definitely true. I like the professional, honest approach to resolving issues, and that's huge. Like when people own up to mistakes that they make,
Yeah.
and it's about, yes, the mistake was made, but here's what we're going to do to resolve it,
Right.
and try to work through that versus coming up with some kind of like bogus situation and lie to a customer or whatever. It's just it's in anything, like anywhere you're trying to create a positive experience for the customer.
Yeah.
And you're managing somebody, or your manager's telling you to lie about a situation for a customer, it's like, how many times does that happen that you don't know about? And it's like, it's just not a good way to do business.
You end up giving yourself a black eye and the organization a black eye. And it's one of those things where, it may not feel good at the moment to have to own it. Right. But it gives you something to work on for the future. But it also, I think, tells your customer, your client, your team member, hey, I'm willing to do the hard work to, be honest and deal with the problem, deal with the issue that came up. And I just think that in our society, right, we see so many people blaming others and throwing rocks at other people. And, we just obviously come through a very contentious election cycle, and we'll come through more of those in the years to come, I'm sure. And, and it's in so much mudslinging and character assassination attempts. It's like, the biggest thing is what are you doing in your character development so that when people do accuse you, do throw stones at you, that really people around you are like, that's not how he acts. That's not how she acts. That's not them. So basically you kind of protect yourself from those attacks by being proactive and saying, I'm going to continue to grow and develop myself.
Right. So how about emotional intelligence? How does that play in leadership, and how can leaders strengthen that?
That's probably one of the biggest superpowers I think is going to be, moving forward, honestly, because like you said earlier, I mean, there's so much technology and resources at our fingertips to get jobs done skill wise, that I think the leaders who are going to truly stand out, now and in the future, are those who can truly kind of read the room, be aware of what's going on around them and what's going on with their people. Because I think that's one of the biggest gaps for a lot of people is we get so much tunnel vision about myself, right? We get very insular, I guess, looking at internally that, when we really pay attention to what's going on around us and what's going on in the people's lives that we're working with and leading, we can truly make a great difference and connect with them. And people, once again, I think it's that whole thing. Sometimes you don't have the answers they want,
right?
But just the fact that you're willing to hear them and engage with them at an emotional heart level, it's that whole thing of people don't care how much you know until they know how much you care. That's been said for forever. I think that's what emotional intelligence is. It's truly being attuned to the people around you, and you may, once again, you're not going to have all the answers for everybody. You're not going to be able to meet everybody's need. I heard Andy Stanley at a conference years ago say, do for one what you can't do for everyone. And that was a huge idea for me, right? And he was talking about the idea that he had a newer staff person that they were doing like a 90-day review, checking in to see how she was doing and how they could help her more. And all she wanted was like a better paper cutter. And he's like, it felt so small of an ask, but he had his assistant get her a new paper cutter, and it thrilled that woman, and it was going to help her do her job better. And she felt heard and valued. And his whole thing was, I can't do something maybe for everybody all the time, but I can do for one what I can't do for everyone.
Yeah.
I'll never forget that. That whole scenario seems so simple. And I think that's what emotional intelligence is. We make things out to be so big, and we have to do these big grand gestures for people. And I don't think that's really the case. I think it's the daily small things that can really make a big difference. And, that's what I think is where emotional intelligence really comes into play.
Yeah, it's easy to manage a team that's just kind of in their zone and they do their job and they come to work and there's never drama. It's when you do have those kinds of things, and most managers have some kind of complexity to their team. It's not always just easy to manage people. So it's the people that really do have a tough environment and they're trying to develop people, and it's just not coming across to that person, and they're not connecting the dots, and they're not understanding the why. And it's like, okay, what generation are they in? What's going to motivate them to do better? It all is different. Everybody's different. So like having those check-in meetings with the team, recognizing, small victories, giving a quick thank you, handwritten card or an email or a shout out to a team member. Like those things can really change somebody's day, their week, their just overall mental state, because people are just dealing with life, and it's like,
yeah,
they go to work and they're unfocused and it's just difficult. So, so can you share a real world example of how a leader embodies these principles, and how they have really impacted themselves or their team?
Yeah, I think a lot of it comes down to, once again, it's that consistency.
Yeah.
That's the big word for me with all these is, are you consistently doing it? Anybody can kind of do something once, and you'll have skeptical people around them going, okay, are they going to keep doing that? Are they going to keep emphasizing this? Or, for me, the examples I think about is, years ago I was leading a team, and I had a younger guy in his career. He'd been in his job for about a decade, but he was kind of in this transitional spot, and he had enjoyed what he did up till then, but he didn't know if it was where he needed to be or wanted to be moving forward. And we just started meeting, one-on-one, and I just really made an effort to really walk through the journey with him of defining or discerning what's next. And it could have been with us, and it could have been somewhere else. And just saying to him, it's okay either way. If you want to stay, great. We're not trying to get you out the door, right? I mean, we did appreciate him and value him, but I could also sense that he felt like it was time to move on, but he didn't know to what. And so we gave him, tools and some coaching to help him figure that out. And, ultimately he left that position very gracefully and very well. And, I think a lot of it was, the first essential action in the book is about meeting needs. And what I talk about in that chapter is you have to meet with people to understand the needs first, to be able to meet them.
Yeah.
And so for him, he just was lost. He was, in a position that he could have continued in, but he was struggling because of motivation and everything. But we wanted him to get better. And when we really worked on getting better, we discerned that, it was time for him to maybe do something different. And so we walked that path with him. So I think that's one thing. I've seen leaders who just, really are, one of my clients for the last almost 10 years, he's got a very small team, and he's got some employees that they have some tough home situations, and the industry he's in kind of, employees kind of are in that spot. And so, but he told me, he said, he's been walking with some of his employees for years, and they've got a lot of dysfunction that they're dealing with. But he's just great. He's just guided them, and he's led them, and he's cared for them, and he's held them accountable, for their jobs. But he's also been the kind of leader that they don't want to leave. I mean, he doesn't have a lot of turnover. And in fact, he's had people leave and they then come back and want their job back. And he's given some back depending on the situation, and others he's not been able to or hasn't chosen to. But I think a lot of it is just, once again, he knows his people, and he tries to warn them for those who have left. He's tried to warn them. The grass isn't always greener on the other side. You can go chase the dollar, and you can do this, and here's some things to look out for. And when he's been proven right, they once again, they call him up and they're like, hey, you were right. Can I come back? So I think a lot of it, once again, it's just being present with your people. And it's really just paying attention to their needs. And, on one level, you don't want to enable bad behavior or bad, you don't want to enable problems. But I think being patient and walking with people says a lot about the culture of what you're building.
Yeah. So what about the team morale and engagement? And if a leader is listening to this, what are some quick, immediate actions that they can take to try to figure out if it's going to help them in their role?
Yeah, I think a lot of it is, once again, set up one-on-one meetings and start talking to your people, and I'm not talking about necessarily formal annual review type meetings. There's a place for that. Don't get me wrong. But I think that leaders, like I said before, because of the time crunch, don't end up meeting with their people enough. And these don't have to be long, drawn out meetings. But, what I did, I put into a cadence years ago at a team I was leading, where we'd have an all team meeting once a month. But then we would have individual meetings throughout that month as well. And so we were together as a group, working together on projects, updating people, everything that way. But then I had a rhythm of having, these monthly one-on-ones, and yes, they were about progress and projects and things on one level, but a lot of it was simply, how are you doing? What can I help you with? It's those types of things, because once again, and these can be literally 10-15 minute touch base meetings with people. If you need to really compress time and you really have to watch that, that's fine. They could be stand-up meetings, have somebody pop into your office or pull them off to the side in a conference room, whatever, and just, ask them how they're doing as a person. I think this is the biggest thing is, team morale starts with, do you care about me? Does the team care about me? And when people feel valued, that's huge. And, years ago, I was doing some coaching with a team, and there was a lot of tension inside the team. And that was the biggest problem, is there was some infighting or battling going on, that, competitiveness, and they weren't on the same page. And one person ended up leaving, and it ended up helping the health of the team. It was good for that person. It was good for the team. So not everybody stays, right? Not everybody is in the right place, but I think of Jim Collins, and he talks about in Good to Great being on the right bus, being in the right seat, and I think that's huge for people and morale, even getting people off the bus, right? Helping people get off the bus. Sometimes the kindest thing we can do is move them to a different place, a different team, or even now the organization. It may hurt at the moment, but it might be the best thing for them down the road. And I think that helps team morale when a leader is saying, look, I see a problem. I'm dealing with this problem, and I want you to be at your best. I want the team to be at its best. I'm going to do the hard things to help us all be successful.
Yeah. I think one thing that companies don't do a good job at, and you might see it too, is promoting people from within to a manager role that was once a part of a team, and now they're managing that same group of people. And some people may not agree with that decision. Some people may not know why. It's explaining the why behind decisions, and being upfront as much as you can and honest with everybody. So having like a quarterly, all teams meeting, or quarterly, all hands on deck meeting, or something to show, that you want to share information with the company, and, what you can find out from different surveys and check-ins with the entire team is how they feel about the team morale, how they feel about the overall engagement of the team, and you may not see it. You may not see it as a leader. You may not see it as a manager, but other people within the organization might have the problem.
Yeah.
So if they do have the problem, it's like, well, managers within a company should know what's working for their team, what's not. How can they work with each other to try to make their teams better? Give them some kind of mentor, somebody that can help them in these situations, and try to navigate through it, because it's difficult. And having good team morale today doesn't mean it's going to be good in 6 months, a year, especially when people come and go. And a lot of people leave a company, they like the company but not the manager, and how they're lead it, or how the company is promoting people and how it's being led. So how do these, leadership principles, that you're talking about apply to the workplace in personal relationships and the communities that you see?
Yeah, I mean, really, I look at it as, first of all, I think everybody's a leader at some capacity. Doesn't mean you're, the department leader or the CEO or the business owner, whatever, right? I think we all lead in different ways and different levels. John Maxwell famously says we at least lead one person, that's ourselves. And so, we have to become better, at least to lead ourselves every morning. We're also the hardest person to lead, by the way. That person in the mirror is the toughest. But I also think that, that a big part of this, David, is, once again, it's who you are is who you attract. So it's the idea that, wherever you go, whether it's going to work, whether it's out in the community, whether it's at home, are you the same person? Because that, to me, is kind of the definition of integrity, or an example of integrity is, wherever I am, I'm going to be, in essence, predictable, right? You're going to know how I'm going to show up. My family, when I walk in the door, they know how to expect me to show up. When I go to the office with team members, they know how, with customers, clients, whoever, for years, I've coached youth sports with my kids. And, it's like that I took very seriously as a leader of those kids, because I knew that I was a model and an example. And so, we talked about, how do they show up? How are they as even in their sport? So I think that they're all these principles, these essential actions I'm talking about are transferable all across the board. And once again, I think that if we can truly like own them and say, this is who I'm going to be, these are the things I'm going to do wherever I am, then you become truly an attractive magnetic leader that people want to be around, they want to follow, and they will, once again, they start kind of recruiting for you because they're saying, look, this is a great environment. This person really cares about us, building a great culture, protecting the culture, doing the hard things when needed, but also just caring for the people and developing people, equipping people, providing the resources, all the things, because I think that's what people want. I mean, I think, people they do want to feel valued, but they also want to feel like you're helping them win. Right. And if you can do that as a leader, it just makes such a huge difference. And once again, that's certainly in the professional realm, like we're talking primarily about today, but you can do that at home with your spouse, with your kids. You can do that in the community in all sorts of ways.
Yep, absolutely. So for listeners, what's a takeaway or maybe one key lesson from the magnetic leader? What should that be, you think?
Yeah, I mean, I think at the end of the day, so the last essential action is produce results. And this is one that I tell people, it's not last because it's least important at all. In fact, it's very important, because if you don't produce results, you can do all the other 17 actions and people will think, man, David was a great guy. He was really nice to us. He was great to us, but we just didn't succeed as a team, right? Like we didn't win. People want to win. People want to be a part of a winning program, a winning team, a winning culture. And so I think that, I had actually a childhood friend who owns a business. He had me come in and do some training with his team. And years ago, he told me this. He said, Chris, I don't like this soft and squishy stuff, but I know we need to deal with it. Because the soft skill side of it wasn't how he naturally thought. But we also talked about, hey, you've got to produce results, but you also have to deal with these quote unquote soft skills, which, by the way, I think are the harder skills. Because once again, it goes back to the emotional intelligence and the dealing with the people, which is challenging. But I think if you do all these things that I talk about in the book, and you're consistent and you're making an effort to get better every day, and you're producing results, then people are going to want to be there. If you're just a nice person, but your company struggles, your team isn't really performing well. So it's a delicate balance, but it's vital that you still, as a leader, people want to win and people want to be on winning teams. So, but you can't be just driving people, because that burns them out, that wears them out, and that damages culture too. So I'm not saying this is easy, David. That's the thing, right? This is not an easy thing to do. But once again, looking at, leadership over the last 30 years of my life, very in depth, I'll say, with experiences as well as from mentors and peers, I just think these are the things that really are going to help people, be the kind of leader people love to follow, and then have the kind of results they want.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's great. And I definitely want to make sure people know where to find more of your work, Chris, if they want to look up and connect with you. So it's McClureCoaching.com. I'm going to put up a QR code for anybody watching live, but you can go to McClureCoaching.com. You can check out his work and everything that he can do for you as an organization. Because again, I've been there. I've addressed and identified what leadership, what manager training we need. It's, can we find the time to do it? And a lot of times it's so difficult, and people don't want to take the time to put it into their jobs, into their day-to-day work. And they're just in this rhythm of doing their job and just doing their day-to-day stuff and managing as much as they can and trying to address things when they just have to, but sometimes they don't even have the time to address it. So it's just really difficult to be a manager right now in this world when you're managing potentially several generations at once. And it's just going to continue to be a struggle for people. However, there are people like Chris to be really helping in this kind of work, and they got to have it, they got to want it, and they want to be able to get better, but it's just not going to happen over time. It will, but it's not just going to happen overnight. So always something to improve on.
Yeah, I was going to say it's a process, right? And I think that's another thing to kind of wrap up on too is, Be patient with the process. That's hard, right? But you don't wave a magic wand and get instant results. It's really that day
Yeah.
by day process, and it's not easy.
Yep.
I say it's simpler than we make it, but it's not easy, right?
Yeah.
Simple doesn't always equal easy.
Yeah.
The daily input, the daily reps is where the challenges are.
Yeah. And, like I was saying before, having a mentor, having somebody you can go to within the organization, is great. Sometimes people just don't have that luxury of going to somebody and asking them questions. And, so even if it's somebody you worked with prior, that's why I always try to tell people, like, if you leave a company and you had good relationships with people, you never know when you're going to reach out to somebody that you might need help on a situation, or, so leave a job better than you found it if you can. And especially if you go to a company that you feel valued and then a new opportunity opens up outside of that organization, you just never know when paths will cross again.
Right.
And, so it's trying to find the right people to surround yourself around, if it's people not in your organization. But then I think asking your team for feedback too, like, what can I do better as a manager? And sometimes people will bring up things that need to be improved upon, or, hey, I just need better communication. I need to know the why, or, they might be able to tell somebody, if they do have consistent conversations, what you're doing well. Like, if people do, and I've been in that situation where people do give me feedback as their manager, like, hey, you're really helpful, you're hands-on, you're asking me to do things, and we're learning together. And it's just, so if you can get that balance and really show your team that, hey, I'm human, I'm going to make mistakes, I'm not perfect, I'm here to be your manager and try to develop you, and at the end of the day, help the company be successful and be, in a position to help other people be successful. So
yeah. And I love what you're saying there, David, because I think that's one of the biggest things I tell leaders: ask your people what they think your strengths and weaknesses are. And
right.
The challenge for people is many of those leaders, even if they bravely do that, their people are often timid and afraid to give the honest truth because they're afraid if there's going to be blowback and repercussions. But once again, if you build relationships and rapport with people and say, look, we're all growing. I know I need to grow. I know you need to grow. We're all, we all know we have blind spots. So let's help us see those blind spots. And I need your feedback. Once they kind of get over that initial fear, and they can start, and you genuinely ask the question and then do something about it. That's the other thing. Yeah. Don't just ask and they say, well, you're really challenged, in this area, you need to focus maybe there, and then you don't do anything about it. Well, next time you ask, they're not going to tell you because they don't think you're taking it seriously. So,
right.
But I think it's that mutual, John Maxwell even has a book called 360-Degree Leadership, and, it's leading up, leading down, leading across to your peers. And so that's what you're talking about when you're in middle management in particular. There it is. It's a lot, right, to lead up and down and across. And so once again, it's not easy. It's not as hard as we can make it out to be, but you just have to get started. You have to take a step. And that's why I wrote this book. Was here are 18 actions that you can take and start implementing them one by one and building it into your character and who you are as a leader, and it will start to compound over time.
Yep. Yeah. And two, I mean, there's leaders that have a hard time letting go of things and giving people control. Mm-hmm. And so from a small business perspective, I've seen that, and mid-sized businesses where an owner of a company just likes to be in control of a lot of things and involved in a lot of things. And it's like, give somebody the tools to do that part and manage them and lead them to make right decisions. You just can't make all the decisions yourself.
Yeah.
And so I have seen that as companies grow, it's like, put the right person in the right seat.
Yeah.
Give them the resources to make good decisions. But if they make a bad decision, learn from it. Mm-hmm. And, that's the only way a business is going to grow, is to have people smart around you to make decisions with you, next to you, and manage the team and really help them grow. So, and take time and effort to making the training of your managers, part of the yearly whatever program that you need, because whether you have 10 employees or 10,000, somebody's managing them, whether it's the owner, whether it's a few managers, but middle management is very difficult. And, it's just one of those things that for people like you see it all the time. And people that really want to do better and not just sit in trainings and just.
Well, like you said, people that get promoted because they've been successful in their role, that's a good thing, right? You want people to be able to move up and have mobility, but you also need to understand as a leader that success in a skill doesn't equal success as a leader. And so somebody, there's a group of people that I'm finishing up a leadership program right now. And some of those folks have been in their organization 20, 30, 40 years. And, they're still saying to me, Chris, this is stuff I haven't thought about before. They've done a good job. They've obviously been faithful and loyal to their business and the company, but it's that whole thing of, don't assume, right? It's that whole thing that not everybody is equipped to be a leader just because they get the title and get the position. In fact, most people aren't. And, a good friend of mine, he's high up in a national bank. And he said, Chris, he's like, I keep getting promoted, but nobody ever trains me to lead these people more. And so he's been frustrated on his end. Super sharp guy, and he's a better leader than I think he gives himself credit for. But he hasn't received that ongoing and formal training and emphasis that he would desire to make sure that he's doing the best for his people. So it's a common issue, and once again, I can sympathize with it, but at the same time, I would challenge leaders to, don't just say we're busy, right? Not just find time, but make time. And be intentional, because if you put together an intentional plan, then you put it on the calendar and you're willing to invest the time and the dollars to make it happen, it will pay off in, multiples down the road.
Yep, absolutely. All right. One final question. Did you watch the Super Bowl, and what was your favorite commercial?
So here's the thing. I did not watch the Super Bowl.
Okay.
I was rebelling, honestly, because I was tired of the Chiefs being a Super Bowl. I'm a Bengals fan, man. I'm salty about what has happened in football recently. But
I grew up in Michigan, and I was hoping for the Lions to make a run, and that just didn't happen either.
Yeah.
So it's unfortunate. Maybe one day there'll be Bengals, Lions. I don't know.
That would be a pretty cool. Actually, they're saying there's the theory of the conspiracy of the logo. The Super Bowl logo colors. Have you seen that?
Yep, I have.
Next year it's orange and blue.
Well, how about that?
We just predicted the Bengals versus the Lions.
We just predicted the Super Bowl. So we'll watch this next year and say, I told you so, everybody.
That's right. That'd be awesome, wouldn't it?
Yeah. No, there were some pretty good commercials.
Was there? I like to go back and look at I'll YouTube the commercials or whatever.
Just Google Seal commercial with Seal. That's all I got to say.
Okay.
It was pretty good. I wasn't watching. I was like in the other room, and then I heard it, and then I was like, oh my gosh. And then I saw what was going on. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's one of my favorites. So there was a part where there was like 2 or 3 really good commercials back to back to back. And the rest of them were okay, but yeah, I didn't watch it all. My son, my 12-year-old son is actually a Chiefs fan. I don't know how, but he, talks a lot of trash. And then I told him, like, look, it may not happen again. And then he was just very quiet all night. So
yeah. Hey, Mahomes is definitely, a fan favorite for a lot of kids, especially. I mean, he's fun to watch, but it's that whole thing. But
I'm glad the Eagles won. I'm glad someone else won. Just like college football, there's, I'm a Michigan fan, so that's been a fun couple of years now. We got Ohio State winning, and who knows? But
I will say this: I did win, even though I wasn't watching the game. The Super Bowl squares that my son's baseball program was selling squares. Yeah, I won the first quarter, so I got my money back and more.
Hey,
I felt like I won no matter what.
Yeah, you didn't have to watch.
That's right.
That's awesome. Well, Chris, it's been a pleasure to have you on today, and I just really appreciate your time. And congrats again on just 10 years of doing the coaching work and doing your books. And hopefully there's more to come with you. But again, if anyone is interested in hearing more about Chris, go to his website, www.mcclurecoaching.com. So Chris, have a great, rest of your day. Stay healthy. I hope everybody stays healthy. And we'll hopefully talk to you real soon next week. really good episode on compliance in the workplace going on right now from an HR aspect. So again, a lot more to come this year. Got a lot of fun guests coming up. And Chris, thanks again for your time, man.
Well, thanks for having me, and keep up the great work. This is awesome. I love what you're doing.
Appreciate it. Have a good one.
All right, take care.
See ya.